Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill, as I do every month on both Facebook Live and YouTube, to answer any questions you may have. For those of you who are familiar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, the most practical findings and new videos and articles upload every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything, just put up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose life was saved with lifestyle medicine, which is why I went to medical school, why I became a lifestyle medicine doctor, and why I started NutritionFacts.org. Let us get to your questions. It looks like a whole bunch of questions are already there. Sweet. Okay, I'll just start at the top and go down. Surge112 asks about choline. Following a daily dozen, one may get about 300 milligrams a day, while the adequate intake in the EU is 400. In the US, it's 550. Actually, I think that's just for men. Women, it's around 400 something. Studies show deficiencies are possible, raising the liver enzymes. Would lecithin really be bad, like taking a lecithin supplement? Lecithin really would be that bad. We don't want to be taking lecithin supplements, just like we don't want to be taking carnitine supplements, because of TMAO, trimethylamine oxide. By eating choline-rich and carnitine-rich foods, we are fostering the growth of bacteria that can take those molecules and turn them into trimethylamine, which is oxidized by the liver into this toxic compound called TMAO, which travels throughout our body and increases our risk of heart disease and heart failure and kidney failure and cancer progression and all sorts of other bad things. And so we want to stay away from carnitine-rich foods like red meat, choline-rich foods like eggs, seafood, dairy, but also carnitine supplements, even if you don't eat steak, and choline supplements like lecithin, even if you don't eat eggs and other foods. So, but about 300 milligrams a day is what typically most people in America eat. So that may actually be a good thing that we're kind of on the low side of intake, not suffering deficiency on one side, but on the other side, not getting too much to foster the growth of any TMAO producing bacteria. Surge112 also asks, erythritol consumed with fructose, excess fructose certainly, causes GI symptoms because it actually competes for absorption with the fructose in the intestine. And so is erythritol yellow light? Erythritol was never yellow light. Erythritol is a red light food because it's a highly processed plant food, an ultra processed plant food. There's no resemblance whatsoever to melons, grapes, where erythritol is found naturally. So we should eat melons and grapes and pears and other healthy plant foods. If, however, you want a sweetener, it's certainly better than table sugar, certainly better than some of these other, sucralose or aspartame or artificial sweeteners. So indeed, if you, the nice thing about erythritol, as opposed to xylitol or other sugar alcohols, it's actually absorbed in the small intestine, excreted unchanged in the urine, so it doesn't make it down to the colon and get that osmotic diarrhea. If, however, you drink a can of Coca-Cola plus some erythritol, all that fructose will compete with the erythritol, and so you'll absorb the fructose, erythritol will make it down to the colon, and then you get osmotic diarrhea. And so the answer is not to avoid erythritol, but to avoid drinking Coca-Cola, avoid eating added sugars, industrial sugars like high fructose corn syrup and the table sugar in the first place. So, if you're going to use a sweetener, then erythritol, maybe monk fruit, actually. Someone asked me about monk fruit, and I've started to look into it in terms of the research. So far, so good, but no stamp of approval yet, because I'm not just interested in looking at some of the literature, but all of the literature. And once I've read everything I can find, the peer-reviewed medical literature on monk fruit, I will do a video about it and tell you what I think. Or not what I think, what the science shows. Make up your own mind. All right. Hello, Jay Lau, sorry if I'm mispronouncing everybody's name, has a question. Heard that we should, yes, eat lots of whole foods. What is a whole food? Is a whole grain considered a whole food? Absolutely, a whole grain is considered a whole food. So by whole, I mean unprocessed. What do I mean by processed? I mean processed food is something, is a food from which something good has been taken away or something bad has been added. So refined grains are processed, not whole foods, because they've had the germ and parts of it removed. And other foods have salt or sugar or oil things added. That'd be processed as well. So by whole foods, I mean, yes. So what am I talking about? Whole plant foods include fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, whole grains, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, mushrooms, basically real food that grows out of the ground. These are our healthiest choices. All right. Olivier asks, Dr. Bowden and Atia say that cholesterol is fine and that the problem is actually high triglycerides, and so recommend a low-carb diet. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are they are not familiar with the literature, which very clearly shows that LDL cholesterol, so-called bad cholesterol, is a leading risk factor for the #1 killer of men and women. So if you are suicidal, then trying to boost your cholesterol by eating saturated fat and dietary cholesterol and trans fats is a good thing. If, however, you're not and actually care about your health and longevity, you should try to decrease your LDL, which means decreasing intake of dietary cholesterol, saturated fat predominantly, and trans fats. Look, having high triglycerides is bad too, but you do that by eating whole foods, not refined junk, and by exercising. Olivier has another question. What is my take on the hypothesis that meat was essential to evolve our human brains? Certainly, any adaptation that allowed us to get access to highly calorically dense foods would be an evolutionary advantage. And so even though the first 90% of our evolution from about 20 million years ago to 2 million years ago, we ate what other great apes ate, which is almost exclusively a diet composed of whole plant foods. We figured a way to scavenge and get at bone marrow and brains, and that's super calorically dense, which helps us survive to reproductive age, and that's what it's all about. Right now, though, what those big brains have enabled us to do is make science, right? Is to come up with a process by which we can get at the questions of what's the best thing to eat. And right now, it's just not about making it through puberty. Now it's about living long. And so we need to decrease our risk of chronic disease. And that means decreasing our risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes and various cancers. And that means eating healthfully. And so not eating, not consisting on brains, which is, I think, the one food that actually has more dietary cholesterol than eggs. Olivier, we already did that one. Hero, just the same question. Fruits and vegetables are not the only whole foods. Other whole plant foods are whole foods too. Olivier has another question. Some friends thinks I believe in a conspiracy theory when you show them the science. Well, if it's based on science, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's the science. One does not have to believe in conspiracy other than, no, one doesn't have to believe in conspiracies at all. I mean, that's just the way the world works. I mean, the reason that Coca-Cola isn't selling you broccoli is there's just not money to be made on broccoli. That's how the system works. The stockholders wouldn't allow Coca-Cola to sell broccoli because there's just not enough markup. They're not out to make kids sick and fat. They're just out to make money. That's the system. It's not conspiracy. It's just, that's the way the system works. It rewards selling foods that's non-perishable, that sits on the shelf, makes more money, can be branded, can be, made from subsidized sugar, etc. Anyway. All right. Okay. Comment. Matt asks, is a whole food form of coconut, like dried or frozen coconut flakes, a green, yellow, or red light food? So a whole coconut would be a green light food because it is a whole plant food. Studies show that eating like whole unsweetened flaked coconut has a neutral effect, has no effect on one's bad cholesterol. And you say, wait a second, it has all that saturated fat in it. Right, but also has fiber and plant protein, which help lower cholesterol. Now, if you take defatted coconut flakes, which you can't actually buy, but you can make experimentally in a lab, you give that to people, what happens? Their cholesterol actually goes down. Why? Because it's a whole plant food without saturated fat. And so cholesterol goes down. So the fiber, the plant protein is trying to decrease your cholesterol while the saturated coconut oil is increasing your cholesterol in the whole food. So it has a neutral effect overall. Now you could argue certainly, well, why not, instead of eating coconut, eat foods without the saturated fat to actually lower your cholesterol? Why eat foods that just have a neutral effect when you can eat foods that actually reduce your risk further? That's certainly a legitimate argument. And so, yes, all green light foods are not created equal. Iceberg lettuce is a green light food. Kale is better, right? White potatoes, green light food. Sweet potatoes, better, etc. All right. Matt also asks, black, brown, red, or green lentils, which is the healthiest? Smaller is better, and probably black would be the healthiest. So like little kind of French lentils that are small and black probably have the highest nutrient content. But any lentils, basically the healthiest lentil is the lentil you'll eat most of. So that may be the most convenient, the one you can find down the street, the one that's cheapest. Whatever gets you to eat more lentils is the way to go. All right. It looks like I'm paused for a moment. I don't know if I should keep talking or should I wait until it pops back up. I'll just hope that it pops back up. Matt also asks, any updates on vitamin D versus D3? Is D3 still the superior form? D3 is the superior form. You can get D3 derived from plants, derived from animals, or you can get it derived from your own animal yourself when you walk out and get adequate sunlight. Hold on, I'm getting a message. Oh, all right, good. I got a message from them saying that the video still seems fine. That's great. Okay. Matt asks, is sorghum flour healthy? In general, we should try to eat intact grains, so non-flour products. So whole wheat flour is a whole food. Nothing bad added, nothing bad taken away. Nothing bad added, nothing good taken away. But there are healthier forms. So eating wheat berries. That's why steel cut oats are actually healthier than instant oats, even though they're both whole foods. It's just oats. But because of the way our body digests it, it's better to eat intact grains whenever possible, rather than flour products, because that leaves some little bits for our good bacteria to eat. Our bacteria eats starch. Our healthy bacteria eats starch, and so by chewing instead of pureeing, so eating chickpeas is healthier than eating hummus, even though it's the same thing, because of those little bits of inadequately chewed chickpeas make it down to the gut and feed you good bacteria instead of getting absorbed higher up in the gut. So in general, intact grains. But if you're going to eat flour, the sorghum flour is fine. Any whole grain flour is fine. In fact, you can actually take those oats, take rolled oats, put them in a blender, and make your own oat flour if you want. I just made some latkes recently. And the forks over knives recipe for latkes uses oat flour, and that's how I made it. Matt also asks, are hemp seeds and pumpkin seeds healthy? Absolutely. Seeds are super healthy. I recommend people eat nuts and seeds every day. It's part of my daily dozen. If you don't know what the daily dozen is, there's a free app on iPhone and Android. You can get it. And these are just the things I encourage people to fit into their daily diet whenever possible. So greens every day, the healthiest vegetables. Berries every day, the healthiest fruits. A quarter teaspoon of turmeric, a tablespoon of ground flax seeds. The best beverages, how much exercise, etc. All there in my book, How Not to Die, and free on those apps, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. Surge 112 is back, saying most algae-based DHA EPA use alpha tocopherol and basically use antioxidants and preservatives. Is that harmful to get a few milligrams of vitamin E as a preservative? No. Nope, that's fine. Choline. Oh, we already did that. Okay. Oh, did I go all the way back to the front? No, here we go. Okay. Mike M asks, been eating whole foods for 2 years. LDL, still high, 110. Is it okay? It is not okay. C-reactive protein is really low. That's excellent. Oh my God, blood pressure is gorgeous. Systolic 105. Hopefully your diastolics is around 70 or lower. BMI is beautiful. Normal blood sugar is great. Your LDL is still too high. So I would encourage you to add to your diet. So you already eliminated all the things that increase your cholesterol, like saturated, probably trans fats, dietary cholesterol. You may be eating saturated fats. You're eating lots of coconut oil would not be a whole foods. But I'm trying to think of a whole food source of saturated fat. If you're really not eating any of that junk, you pretty much eliminated everything that increases your cholesterol. So now you just have to add to your diet things that actively pull cholesterol from your body. So we're looking at like the portfolio diet. Dr. David Jenkins, University of Toronto, developed this diet. It was a plant-based diet. But in addition, added specifically foods like foods with lots of soluble fiber, slimy foods like okra, oatmeal, ground flax seeds that pull cholesterol from your body, trap it in the small intestine. You say, wait a second, I'm not eating any cholesterol. But your liver makes cholesterol. And if your cholesterol is too high, your little LDL receptors on your liver are not adequately clearing it from your system. And so you can grab onto, you cannot rely on your liver's detoxification pathway and grab onto it by eating huge amounts of fiber foods, and also adds nuts and all sorts of things. And so check out the portfolio diet. And also you may want to get your thyroid tested. If you have symptoms of hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid gland can lead to high cholesterol regardless of what you eat. And so, of course, you'd want to treat the cause rather than, if however possible. And should that be the case, once your hypothyroidism is taken care of, your cholesterol should drop like a rock and reflect your gorgeous diet, which for most people eating the way you described you're eating is, a total cholesterol around, 125 or something, pushing LDL at least below 70. Ellie asks, is kombucha safe? Well, there's these extremely rare cases of lactic acidotic comas in people that are drinking, after drinking kombucha, both commercial kombucha and homemade kombucha. And so because of that, I put a video up describing those rare cases and saying, why don't we just stick to food that doesn't have any cases of putting people in a coma. So I would recommend not drinking kombucha. What's the best probiotic? You don't need to eat probiotics. You need to eat prebiotics to feed the good bacteria you already have in your gut. What's the point of putting good bacteria in your gut if you're just going to starve them out like you've been starving your good bacteria? What do good bacteria eat? They eat fiber and resistant starch, found concentrated in legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, lentils, but all whole plant foods. And so feed the good bacteria you already have with healthy foods. That's the best probiotic, quote unquote. Unless you just took an antibiotic or something, wiped out your good bugs, and you're experiencing symptoms like chronic diarrhea or something, then we can talk about probiotics as a treatment, but not as a regular thing. All right, Matt is back. Oh, we already did the whole food coconut thing. Yep, we already answered all those. Okay, BJK said, I recommend no more than a liter of hibiscus tea. Yes, thanks to the manganese content. What about hibiscus? How much hibiscus are we talking about? 5 bags. Oh, Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I would have to look at that study. So there's a study found that there's just, hibiscus is so packed with nutrition that it's actually may have a little too much manganese if you drink way too much of it. I would just have to see exactly how many grams of tea they were actually using to make that liter. So check out the study. Click on the link. If you click on sources cited below any of my videos, you can get a list of all the links to all the PDFs, to all the original studies I cite, and you can pull that up and see exactly what I meant by 1 liter of hibiscus tea regularly any day. All right. In fact, I will take a sip of hibiscus tea while we're talking. All right. Now, what should I do after I drink my hibiscus tea? I should rinse my mouth out with water so as to not to erode my enamel because it's all the natural acids. But we already knew that. All right, 9 minutes to go. BJK asks, any updates on adding nuts to nitrate-rich greens for fat-soluble vitamins? Nuts? No. The fat they're talking about. Yeah. Eat nuts with your greens. Eat nuts without your greens. Eat greens with or without nuts. Don't worry about preventing don't worry about making nitrites in your stomach. Marie asks, can inorganic arsenic consumed with brown rice be removed from the body with time? Oh, yeah. So Marie is asking a question about arsenic. I'm currently doing this 13 video series about the concerning amount of arsenic found in most rice. And the question Marie has is, wait a second, can I get rid of arsenic from my body? Absolutely. Guess what? Your body does it. So arsenic is water soluble. Unlike some persistent organic pollutants like PCBs, dioxins that build up in your fat and you can have for decades, something like mercury stays in your body for a long time. Arsenic is flushed out of your body. That's why we can test to see how much arsenic is in people's diet by testing arsenic levels in their urine. You want to see how much rice eaters, brown rice eaters versus white rice eaters. I just did a video on that. You just test how much urine. That's how much is flowing through the body on a day in, day out basis. You don't store it up. So how do you get rid of arsenic? You stop eating it. And guess what? Your body gets rid of it. I mean, within a day, it flushes out your, and then the only reason you're continue to be exposed is because you continue to eat or drink it. So super easy to remove it from your body. Let your body do its magic and just don't eat any more of it. That's the plan. Or minimize your consumption. All right. Rake 922 asks, are there negative consequences to a very low sodium diet? There are positive consequences to a very low sodium diet. In fact, a quote unquote very low sodium diet is a physiologically normal diet. If you think about it, there weren't salt shakers out on the savannah in Africa. So the quote unquote very low sodium diet, that's what we evolved for millions of years to be adapted to. And it's only, so even a low sodium diet is really a high sodium diet compared to our biology. The only negative consequences one might find is if someone is on salt wasting diuretics. There's certain blood pressure medications that work by flushing sodium out of your body. And so if you had severe congestive heart failure and you're on high doses of these drugs and then also on a very low sodium diet, you can actually wash too much sodium out of your body. But in terms of normal people, your body very rapidly adapts to a low sodium diet, conserves sodium such that, they have these cases where people fast for hundreds of days, over a year. There's actually the Guinness Book of World Records, some very obese person fasted, ate nothing but water for a year and without any salt, 0 salt diet, and maintained their sodium levels because our kidneys were made to hold on to sodium at all costs. What do I think about, Nicole asked, what do we think about V8 juice? And how beneficial are hemp seeds? Hemp seeds, like all seeds, are healthful. The problem with V8 juice is it's a juice. It's had all the fiber or most of the fiber removed from it And so what I would recommend is instead make your own V8 smoothie. So I actually have I think called my V10. It's my new favorite drink. I think there's the recipe in the upcoming How Not to Die cookbook for it. Basically, it has all the stuff in V8, like, celery and, carrots and all sorts of stuff. But you blend it into a smoothie, and horseradish, and there's all sorts of really good stuff in it. And it's delicious, actually tastes better, and it's a whole food. You're basically drinking your vegetables. I mean, what could be possibly healthier than just drinking massive amounts of really wonderful vegetables? So that would be my recommendation. So stay tuned for that recipe. In fact, maybe I'll even do a Dr. Greger in the kitchen video showing people how to make it, just because I love it so much. All right. 4 minutes ago, BJK is back saying, any expected benefits of having sodium intake? Yes, there's benefits. How about not dying from strokes and heart disease? And yes, under 1,500 milligrams of sodium is what we want to do. Daniel asks, eating seeds and nut butters, has it been connected to pimples? Do I have info on eating higher whole plant foods and acne? I don't know of any data linking whole food sources of fat, such as avocados, nuts, and seeds, with acne. There's certainly a dairy literature, a high glycemic index food literature, but don't know of any high-fat whole plant food linkages. But if you do suffer from acne, what I would recommend, check out my barberries video. How cool is that? That was really an extraordinary. So treating acne with the most antioxidant-packed dried fruit, which you can buy in Middle Eastern stores. Check it out. So just type in barberries or acne into NutritionFacts.org, and it should pop right up. Omkar asks, what does the evidence say about glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, blah, blah, blah. What does the evidence say? Oh, about using it, presumably they're talking about for osteoarthritis. I looked at that literature a long time ago and it was very unimpressive. I have not yet looked at it again. But regardless of what the latest says, you always want to treat the cause. Why do you have osteoarthritis in the first place, rather than trying to treat it with supplements or drugs? Marie asks, how can you know that brown rice was harvested as opposed to where it was processed? Oh, interesting. So when I talk about how certain countries have higher levels of arsenic than others, rice from certain countries, the question is, well, what if it says it's Indian basmati, which is relatively low arsenic rice, but it just was like shipped from India, but actually came from someplace like Arkansas, which has high arsenic rice. And all I can say is it just wouldn't make sense to grow rice in Arkansas or Texas, where it has the most arsenic, then ship it to India, put it in a new bag, and ship it back. So it's probably processed and grown in a very similar geographic location, would be my assumption. Marie also asks, eating brown rice leads to lower incidence of colon polyps. But higher incidence of bladder cancer. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is so cool. So what should we do? Should we eat brown rice? Should we not eat brown rice? That's what I got videos about. In fact, that's, I think, the name of the video. Should we eat brown rice or not? It's coming up. Check it out on NutritionFacts.org. All right. Matt. 1 minute left. Is a whole form. Oh, we already did the whole form coconut. Yep, we already did that. Good. Connor asks, roughly how much glycogen can your body store before it's reached and turned into fat? Glycogen isn't turned into fat, but it's stored in your liver and muscles. You only have enough for about really less than a day. You only can store about a day's worth of carbohydrates before it's exhausted, and you have to start making sugar from scratch, mostly in your liver, also in your kidneys, as well as start dipping into your fat stores. So not much. But no problem, because you can just eat and store some more. And it is 3:30, and bummer, that's it for this installment. I do want to mention that on August 8th at 8 p.m. is the premiere of my new PBS special. We're going to live stream it on NutritionFacts.org. Put it down your calendar, 8/8 at 8 Eastern. Oh, is it Eastern? Maybe not, because it's in Detroit. So Detroit time, 8 p.m., wherever that is for you, we will live stream my new PBS special on NutritionFacts.org. But then they're going to make us take it down. So it's like live only. Otherwise, you got to actually watch it on TV when it comes out this fall. But you can check it out. We'll have it on the homepage, NutritionFacts.org. And I'll be actually live in Detroit at the time if you happen to be around. Anyway, have a wonderful week and stay healthy.